Inside this tub are two mystery reptile eggs, and over the next 60 days, I'm gonna hatch them and see what comes out of these eggs. I'll then also build a home for the reptiles. I have no idea what's inside these eggs.
I cannot believe that we've just hatched this. This is crazy.
A few days ago, Dr. Eggman sent me another exciting message asking if I wanted a mystery reptile egg. And only a few days later, I got a parcel at my door. You guessed it. It was John yet again delivering our goods. Thanks, John. Now, after unboxing, I noticed there were two eggs. He didn't tell me this. They were also marked with a line, meaning they had to be kept that way up at all times or they would die. Now, these eggs are a lot bigger than the last eggs I hatched over a year ago. So, I'm guessing whatever's inside here is pretty damn big. It was now time to set up the eggs and give them what they need to hatch, which is a lot easier said than done. I first had to remove the eggs from the packaging, had to be extremely careful as reptile eggs are very delicate. One wrong move and the reptile inside could die. Next, it was time to give them their hatching tub. I put a small water container in the tub. This basically keeps the humidity right where it needs to be without getting the eggs wet. If the eggs get wet, they'll die. I then added this substrate. This substrate just helps retain humidity for the egg without getting it wet. And yes, in the background you can see a tadpole. It's a new video coming soon, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it. I then had to move the eggs onto the substrate. Now this is where I had to be extremely careful. One wrong move and I could crush the egg, or if I moved it too much, the liquid inside could drown the reptile. After that, I brought out a tub, filled it with the substrate as well, and then I put in a thermometer in the tub so I can keep track of the temperature as it needs to remain stable. I then closed the tub over and put it on top of my Dart Frog LED lights, as these lights are very warm and are perfect in terms of temperature. And now the waiting game begins.
Now, by looking at these eggs, I really don't know what they are. They're like circle. Morning gecko eggs, I'll show you in a second, are a lot smaller eggs. These eggs are not big by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, that's my finger for scale. These eggs are still absolutely tiny. So surely it must be something small?
So let's try figure out what can even be inside these eggs. Like I said, they're too big to be a small gecko egg like a morning gecko, which we hatched before, but they're not big enough to be a snake or something like that. Now, it could be a chameleon egg, as they're similar in size, but it could also be something crazy like a tegu, which are massive lizards that do come in eggs around this size. Leopard gecko eggs are a lot longer and different looking, so it can't be them. Another guess is maybe a skink, as the eggs are around that size too. Either way, hopefully in the next week or so, we should start to see signs of hatching. About a week later, I noticed there was something wrong with the eggs. They were starting to dent inwards. Now this is either a sign of the eggs starting to die, or it's a sign that they're actually close to hatching. At this point, I don't really know. I waited a few more days just to see if the dent would be more aggressive, and it was. So, the best way to check if the eggs are still alive or close to hatching is to use a bright light and shine through the egg to see if there's any signs of life. But if it's close to hatching, then you shouldn't actually be able to see through it, and after taking a look, I couldn't see through the egg. So, it must be close to hatching. Now, because I thought they were about to hatch, I didn't want to miss the hatching process, and I literally got two cameras watching the tub, and he even had it on night vision. But a few days later, there was a problem.
Look how sunken these eggs are. Like, what? Either these eggs are dead, or they're literally about to hatch in like the next day. But look how sunken they are. What?
I asked some people that have hatched eggs before, and they said that the one at the front was 100% dead, but the one at the back might be about to hatch. Now, the other problem was I had to go away somewhere overnight, and of course, this is when something happens.
Wait, guys, do you see that? There's a tail right there. Wait, oh my god. Is that what I think it is? Look at it. I forgot to close the lid.
And yes, I forgot to close the lid, as when I was leaving, I took out the water and put paper down as I didn't want it to drown in case it hatched while I was gone. But we finally have a hatched reptile. Unfortunately, like the people I spoke to, said the other egg was in fact 100% dead, which sucks. But not every egg makes it. But now we need to figure out what type of reptile this is. And after doing a bit of research, it looks like it's a jeweled lacerta, which if you don't know, are about 2 foot long when fully grown. So this isn't a small lizard. With it finally hatching, we had to quickly make a small quarantine tank to make sure he's healthy and eating fine, and then we can get him into his new major tank once I think he's ready. Now for his quarantine tank, I have an old tank that I used for dart frogs a while ago, so I just cleaned it out and disinfected it. I then used some paper towels at the bottom to make sure he's pooping healthy and eating properly, along with some cork branches and hides so he can still have some level of enrichment. Once it was done, I then popped the little guy into his temporary tank. We need a name for him. Now I'm pretty sure it's a male, as males have much bulkier heads, but I'm not 100% sure. Let me know what we should call him in the comments. Now before we feed him, I'll let him explore his new place so he can get used to the new smells and just get a feel for his new environment. I decided to give him some crickets to see how he'd like them, and straight away he started to chomp down on one. Over the next few months, I'd like to train him, as these lizards are extremely smart, so let me know if I should do a follow-up video on him soon. About a week later, he was quite happy in his new home, hunting and eating loads of crickets every day and showing no signs of anything being wrong with him. So it was time to build him his new home that he'll stay in for the next 8 to 12 months until I get a much bigger tank. So as you can see, we have a lot for his new tank, so let's get it done. Now I'm not going to waste your time by showing the tank being built, so watch this super cool transition. Nice transition, right? Yeah, the budget's increased a lot. Now this tank is actually pretty decent. It's got glass sliding doors and is extremely stable, and the build quality is pretty strong. But there was a slight problem. The background that I bought doesn't fit, so I have to take it apart again just to get it in. Once I got the background in the tank, I realized there was a big gap on the right, but it wasn't that big of a deal. I can just cover it up with this plant. So it was time to put the substrate in. I'm using the Arcadia Earth Mix. This is pretty much perfect for arid species and pretty much comes ready to use out of the bag. Could maybe mix some sand with it if you wanted, but it's more than good enough on its own. I then added his water bowl on the right side of the tank away from the heat so it doesn't spike humidity. I then also put a hide on the cold side if he wants to use it and dig under it. Now the left side is where I wanted his climbing branches to be, as that's where he will spend most of the time basking under his light and the UVB. So I made sure to include a long grass plant between the logs, as I think it looks really nice. Now remember, I also have this skull that I think will look really cool in the middle of the tank. And to finish it off, I then added a few bits of leaf litter. I definitely will be adding more over time, but I think this is a good basic simple setup that you should love. And with that, his tank is now complete. I personally love the tank and I think it looks really great. Like I said, I could do with some more plants and branches, but overall I think it's a good starting point that I'm happy with. Now it was time to get the little guy into his new home. I just picked him up into this container, as these lizards are extremely fast and skittish if they don't feel safe. And straight away, he went up to the very top of the tank to hide on top of the background. This lets him work out where he is and gives him a full view of the tank. Now I wanted to lure him down to try get more confidence and make sure he knows it's safe. So I tried to feed him a cricket. I tried to get as low as I possibly could without teasing him too much and annoying him. After giving him it, he didn't really want to go any lower, so I gave him until the next day to try again. And on the next day, I tried to bring him down again, but after trying, he didn't really feel confident and went all the way back up. It wasn't until I tried him with a worm, which is when he ran all the way down and chomped on it. We finally got him down, but pretty soon ran all the way back up again. It's like a game of cat and mouse. I have a lot of training to give this little guy, but to be honest, he's only a few weeks old, so it makes sense why he's scared. I tried one more time with a worm since it's his favorite snack. He did come down, but again went back up. Hopefully in a few more weeks he can gain a lot more confidence. And with that being said, that's the mystery egg hatched and a happy lizard in a new home. Let me know what you want to see next, and remember to subscribe and like the video, and I'll see you in the next one.